So many people have heard about Destin, Florida, but what about Destin's quiet neighbor, Fort Walton Beach? In today's video, we're going to go over the top 10 pros and cons in no particular order, all about Fort Walton Beach. So if you're considering moving down here, or maybe you're just moving down here for work or something like that, this video will help you get to know the entire area and get to know what Fort Walton Beach is about. So let's get into it. So these are in no particular order. Let's go ahead and start yanking these down, and then I will sit back down and discuss each of these points with you. So let's go ahead and get started right here in the middle with smaller town limitations. Let's talk about it. All right, number one, smaller town limitations. That is one of the, well, this is the first con of the video. This is definitely a real concern. If you're looking for big town amenities in this smaller town, you're just not going to find them, unfortunately. Not at the level that you would in maybe, let's say, Pensacola or Panama City Beach. So you are getting kind of a small town vibe. Fort Walton is not that big. The population's not insanely high. So if you're looking for your, super specialized donut shop or something that does like, soy donuts or something, I don't even know if that's a real thing, but you get my point. We're definitely not going to have things like that. Now, we do have some specialty things around here, and there's lots within a short driving distance, particularly if you're willing to drive up to an hour, 45 minutes to Pensacola, an hour 15 or so to Panama City Beach. And then, of course, you've got some other bigger cities within a few hours drive. Great. You can find all of those great things. But here inside of Fort Walton Beach, you're going to get all of the great standard amenities without like the super hyper niched things. But you're going to get all the benefits of a small town feel as well, which I'm not going to give away yet because I know that is one of the pros that we're going to talk about a little bit later. So let's go back to the board and pick our second thing. All right, next up is, if I could grab it, limited public transportation. All right, our second con. And this one, I don't even like throwing this one as a con because maybe I'm a little bit different, but I don't use this that much. I don't know anybody that uses this. Maybe that's because I'm in a town that doesn't have it. But limited public transportation. We don't have a whole lot of that here. I know there is one sort of like little, 8-seater bus, 10-seater bus, something like that goes around. And I think they primarily go to some of the, 55 plus communities and stuff and drive them around, or to some of the, hospitals or longer stay hospitals, I guess, and then take them to some of the common areas. So there is a little bit of public transportation, but as far as, subways and buses and just a ton of ways to get around publicly, there's just not a whole lot. Now we have Lyft and Uber and, those kind of things are pretty common out here, but just note the public transportation in and of itself is not that prevalent here in Fort Walton Beach. Let's get to the next one. Okay, on to the next one. Let's pick this bad boy up right here. Small town feel with big time amenities. All right, the next one is going to seem a little bit contradictory to the fact that we just went over the con of it being a small town. But there's a small pro to this, and that is a small town feel with big town amenities. Now, yes, it's not going to have, just like I said a minute ago, it's not going to have all of the super hyper niched things. If you're looking for, the super specialized coffee shop that does it from coffee grounds in the specific part of Colombia only or whatever, we're not going to have that. But we do have some big town amenities for how small this town is. It's actually surprising. We've got a great downtown area that has shopping and nightlife and great restaurants and a bunch of things to do, and axe throwing and, waterfront restaurants, things like that. And then we've got some specialty shopping and stuff out here. It's a little bit limited. We had a mall. We still have a mall, the Santa Rosa Mall. It's just not that great right now, or, a bunch of the bigger shopping centers inside of it are closing, but we do have a bunch of smaller shops and Michael's and Books A Million, and I could go on and on. There's a bunch, but you're going to have everything that you need here. The only things that you're not going to have here in Fort Walton Beach that you're going to have to travel for are very specialized items, as I mentioned before. But of course, luckily we've got the Silver Sands outlets in Miramar Beach that's about 35, maybe 40 minutes away, depending on where at in Fort Walton you are located. And that's got 100 to 200 different very specialized shops, that are name brand things, Sunglass Hut, Under Armour, Tommy Hilfiger, there's a Croc store there. So we definitely have great shopping and stuff, but you might have to travel just a little bit to get to some of the more specialized things. Of course, you've got all the schools that you need, hospitals that you will need, and then there's great access to the Air Force bases or military bases in general if you're active duty or maybe working on one of those bases. And the best part about the whole thing about Fort Walton, one of the things I like most, is the tight-knit community that you see here. So neighbors are neighbors, you get to know the people around you. Every time I've moved into several different areas around Fort Walton and the surrounding suburbs, it always feels very welcoming wherever I go. All right, let's get to the next one. All right, I want to try a different one this time. Let's go down here in the corner. Seasonal economy. Okay, the seasonal economy. This is going to affect a small portion of you guys. This is I guess technically a con for some. If you're coming down here and maybe you're trying to get in the tourism industry or retail or something like that, we do have a little bit of seasonality here. Now, it's not quite as aggressive of a seasonality change as maybe Destin, Miramar Beach, Sandestin, 30A, but we still have it to a certain extent. A lot of people still come to Fort Walton Beach to vacation, so that means during the peak seasons, June, July, August in particular, there's an elevated amount of people here, and that's great for people in these industries. But during the winter, it slows down a little bit. Now, the advantage is in Fort Walton, this is a little bit better than Destin, Miramar, 30A, all of those, is that our locals come out to play a little bit more, which is super great because it helps kind of stir that economy whenever the rest of the things are slow and everything else is slow because the tourism is not active at the time. So that definitely helps. But just note that if you're relying on that sort of income, that it is going to fluctuate. You're going to need to save a little bit. If you're working for tips or something like that, you're going to have to save a little bit during the summer so that you can get through some of the winter months or, pick up a Uber driving or Instacart or something like that. All right, which one's next? This one. Let's do this one. Ooh, it's a good one. Hot and humid summers. All right, this is a big con for some people. Hot and humid summers. It is warm here, like really warm. Now, we don't generally cross over 100 degrees all that often. I mean, we do every year, but I'm just saying it's not going to be the whole 3 months of summer, but it is going to be generally in the high 80s, low to mid 90s. But it is going to feel like we're on the surface of the sun because the humidity is so strong out here. We're practically swimming. So if you've got, girls, if you've got, your hair that poofs out pretty bad, you're going to need some good products on this. I'm sure we can help you with that. We've got over half of my real estate team are females and a couple of them struggle with that. So they've got some great products and things like that. But just note that it's going to be warm when you walk outside after showering, getting ready for the day. You're going to walk outside. It's going to feel like you need another shower. Wash off all of the moisture off of your body. Going just from, the parking lot into the grocery store, you're going to feel it. It's going to be warm. And if you're trying to do outdoor activities that do not involve the water, please make sure you're hydrated. It is very important. You can get dehydrated out here extremely quickly. Me personally, I love the heat. I would much rather be hot than cold. I know a lot of people are like, well, you could put more layers on at cold. I'm like, I got it. But I would still much rather be hot. I would rather be blistering hot, like 95 with 100% humidity, than I would like 50 degrees. I would take that trade all day because to me, 50 is just absolutely cold. I'm not a big fan of it. Okay, let's see what's next. And next up is, an important one that we need to talk about for sure. Tourist traffic in, during peak season. Okay, we already touched on this just a little bit or kind of hinted around it, but tourist traffic in peak season. So we talked about tourism and how we've got a little bit of seasonality here, but this is a major con. This is actually one of the things that I dislike the most. Now, we don't have it near as bad here in Fort Walton as maybe Destin, Miramar 30A, or heck, even Navarre sometimes. Although I think Navarre's infrastructure is pretty solid, but they do have one little clumped area. But we're not talking about Navarre today. We're talking about Fort Walton Beach. So during those peak seasons, June, July, August, even a little bit before and a little bit after, still pretty heightened. There's still a lot of folks here. The traffic can be pretty rough, and rough for our standards. This isn't going to be rough for like a big city or anything like that. I've been to Atlanta and LA and Huntington Beach and New York. I've been to a ton of different cities. That's real traffic. We don't have real traffic. We have, my 15-minute drive is now 25 or 30-minute traffic. And it's a little bit frustrating because a lot of times that's only 5 to 10 miles. And we're adding an extra 5 to 10 minutes. So it's a little bit, I'll put you on edge just a little bit. But if you know the areas of Fort Walton Beach where you need to go, as long as you're not going into Destin or coming back from Destin during peak times, then generally you're going to be pretty good. You're going to know how to dodge all of this. There are tons of ways around all of it. Again, assuming you're not going into or out of Destin, because that's where it generally gets pretty bad, because Destin backs up way worse than Fort Walton. So if you can dodge that, great. If you can't, well, just know that that's going to be part of your commute. It is going to be, a part of your daily life while living here. Let's get on to the next one. Whew. All right, let's go with, hold on. Traffic infrastructure with some extra fuzzies on it, so that's fun. All right, next up, I did not plan this, is traffic infrastructure. I know we're just talking about tourism traffic, but let's talk about the infrastructure in and of itself. Just like a lot of cities, we have stuff going on 98 all the time. So one of the big issues that causes all of this traffic that I was just talking about with the tourism is that there's one main road going in and out, right? Or going east and west. So that's Highway 98. There's not a secondary option like you would get in another city, big city, where you might be able to pull off and take like kind of the side roads or whatever. There's a little bit of the side roads you can take, but you're going to be taking those in the middle of Fort Walton Beach in order to get through everything. It might not necessarily make sense. So because we've got this 2-lane on either side, or 4-lane, however, I'm not sure if you call that a 2-lane. It's 2 lanes on each side. Because we have that and there's often construction on it, it slows things down. And on top of that, we call it Bloody 98 for a reason. It seems like every couple of months there's a bad accident there. We never want to see it happen, but it does. And sometimes there's fatalities and things like that because it's just this one road. And then, of course, everybody's trying to merge onto it and get to wherever they need to go. So just note that that is definitely a thing. And then on top of that, we've got a bridge that goes onto Okaloosa Island, which is a part of Fort Walton. Then another bridge that goes into Destin. And both of those, at least right now, the Fort Walton Beach one is currently under construction. It has been for about a year. Now, the main pain point of it is over. So we're pretty much going back and forth on that bridge fairly easily. But in the midst of it, when they were kind of swapping everything and moving all the traffic, it was congesting a lot of traffic there. So just something to consider. We're always fixing something on our roads out here. So just note that there will always be some sort of construction going on. All right, let's get to the next one. Okay, let's try this one over here on the left. Ooh, strong tourism industry. Let's talk about it. Man, it feels like we are just going right down the line of just tourism and traffic and stuff like that. But this one is the strong tourism industry. Let's talk about it. So, yes, we are not near as busy as Destin or Miramar or Sandestin or 30A or heck, even Navarre when it comes to tourism. Fort Walton Beach is generally a place that people go to live. Although we have Okaloosa Island that has a ton of condos on, a ton of short-term rentals. And then we've got the whole downtown section that also has both of those things, the short-term rentals and the condos. So that means we're going to get tourists, and tourists are great. Tourists are the reason why we have no sales tax here in Florida, and we thank you for it. We really do appreciate it. Because of the income you guys bring in, it helps us out, which is great. And all in all, I think that helps keep prices down a little bit. Now, you go into Destin, you're going to pay Destin prices. Going to 30A, you're going to pay 30A prices. The cool thing with Fort Walton Beach is you're not getting a whole bunch of that. There's not a whole bunch of just overpriced restaurants for overpricing's sake. That's because the real estate prices are a little bit lower. The cost to build or to bring up a business in Fort Walton is a little bit cheaper because you're not paying that rent and the insurance and all that other stuff as high as you would in some of those other areas. So if you're looking for quick access to Destin, but you don't want to pay the prices of Destin necessarily every time you go to just grab lunch, grab dinner while you're out here on vacation or living here, then Fort Walton Beach is a great option for you. And then, of course, if you're working in the tourism industry in any facet, that means that you're going to, have a lot more tourists during certain times of the year. It's going to be very strong during those times, but as I mentioned before, it will die out a little bit in the winter, except for the snowbirds, of course, which we also appreciate you guys. By the way, I haven't gotten into it yet, but I do own a real estate company here locally in the area. So if you are considering moving down here, if you've heard some stuff here that you're like, I'm cool with it, even though a bunch of these have been cons already. If you're like, hey, I like it, I'm cool with it, I want to make a move, I like you, Andrew, I like your team, whatever. All of my information will pop up here on the screen. You can call, text, email, carrier pigeon, throw me a note, find me on Facebook, however you'd like to get a hold of me, and we will get you set up and well on your way to enjoying our amazing beaches. Let's get to the next pro or con. All right, let's do... Ooh, my favorite. One of the biggest reasons to be in Fort Walton Beach, affordable coastal living. It's funny just talking about beaches, and affordable coastal living is the next one. Listen, if you're looking for a beachside city and you don't want to pay an arm and a leg, you'd like to keep expenses low, you have several options, but one of the best ones is right here in Fort Walton Beach. It's one of the reasons I haven't left personally. There's just something about going into Destin and paying, $500,000, $600,000, $700,000, and the same exact home is $300,000 or $400,000 right here in our backyard in Fort Walton Beach. So if you're looking for affordable coastal living, this is the one. And I've got a ton of videos talking about the housing prices and what you can kind of expect, but just note that you can get into a house. In fact, heck, you can get into a house sub $200,000. And when I say a house, most likely a townhome or a condo if it's under $200,000. But above $200,000, you're going to start seeing the single family homes pop up. And then of course, it's going to range all the way up into the millions because we do have a lot of waterfront property here. We've got it both in the bay, as well as on the Sound, and as well as on the Gulf, although everything that's on the Gulf of Mexico here in Fort Walton is going to be condos, because that's how the island is set up, the barrier island that's between us and the Gulf of Mexico. So affordable coastal living, this is it. The best prices you will see here, and maybe a little bit in Navarre. And then of course, some of the smaller smaller cities within Fort Walton Beach, like Mariester, Shalimar, things like that, but all much better pricing than you can find. Now, of course, if you go a little bit further north and get off of the beach or get off of the waterfront cities, then of course you get even better prices. But as far as waterfront and having that quick access, being 5 minutes away from the beach, Fort Walton's where you want to be. All right, let's get to the next one. And up next is, let's do this little guy right here. Ooh, this is going to be good for a select few of you, but the proximity to military bases. Okay, for those of you that are active duty or working on the bases, the proximity to military bases is great. For those that do not know, if you're watching me for the first time, I am prior military. That's actually why I moved down here. They picked me up and moved me all over the country multiple times for training, and then they said, hey, you're going to Hurlburt Field Air Force Base or Eglin Air Force Base. We were kind of attached at both. I've been at both because they moved all of our aircraft from one side to another. I used to fly for the Air Force, stuff like that. So they moved me down here. If you are a military member or you're working on base or you're working with any of the military personnel, then this isn't a fantastic thing. So Fort Walton is located, literally, if you're looking at a map, it's Fort Walton. You got Hurlburt Field and you have Eglin, just like that. So water, beach, Gulf of Mexico, Hurlburt Field, Eglin. And hopefully the camera doesn't change things around and do that backwards, but you get the point. It is smack dab in the center. That was actually the main reason I chose Fort Walton Beach originally. So I did not like driving when I first got into the military, which is so funny that I became a realtor because that's what I do so much. I mean, I don't sell as much anymore now, so I don't do as much of the driving, but I drive a lot now. But I hate it. I despised it when I was in the military. I wanted to get straight to the office and straight back. So I chose right smack dab in the middle of Fort Walton Beach, right behind the Walmart in Fort Walton, because at the time I was at Eglin Air Force Base, and I was PCAing, which is a military term for basically moving. It's similar to a PCS, but it's like within a short distance. They call it a PCA, to Hurlburt Field. And I knew that at the time when I was purchasing my home. So I bought one smack dab in the center. So it was about 8 minutes to Eglin Air Force Base and about 6 minutes to Hurlburt Field. And those are the directions I took if I'm looking at the map, so that I could easily get to either one of my locations. So I didn't have to drive that much. I was driving this old 85 Chevy with no air conditioning and stuff. That's probably why I didn't like driving that much. But that is what I chose. So if you're looking for proximity to those two bases, this is a great spot to be. Now, you will be a little bit further away from Duke Field or the 7th Special Forces Group, which are both kind of like right next to each other up by Crestview. It's just south and a little bit east of Crestview or west, depending on which one of those two you're going into. Now, of course, we've got Tyndall over in Panama City Beach, and we've got Pensacola Naval Air Station over in Pensacola. This is not going to be anywhere near those two. So if you're looking to be near one of those two, you need to be in a different city, most likely, unless you're okay with an hour or close to an hour long drive. All right, let's see what's next. Okay, let's do, what's this one right here? It's got a big piece of tape on it. All right, ooh, cultural and historical sites. Okay, before I get into this one, if you haven't done so already, hit the subscribe button if you are finding this helpful at all. We do videos every single week, Tuesday at 4 p.m. So let's get into this next one. Cultural and historical sites. A big thing I want to talk about this is, yes, we have some historic sites here. We've got the Indian Temple Mound Museum, which is, from what I hear, pretty cool. I'm going to be honest, I've lived here since 2006, almost 20 years now. I've still never been to that particular museum, but I have been to the Air Armament Museum multiple times. In fact, one of our very first videos on this channel, I showcased off that whole thing because it's one of my favorite museum. I'm not really a museum person generally, but if I'm going to go to one, an Air Armament Museum hits me in my soul just because I was a previous aviator. But on top of that, the things that I kind of wanted to mention outside of that is some of the more historical cultural events as well. The biggest one that we have is Billy Bowlegs. If you're a long-time watcher of this channel, you've heard me talk about this before. It's one of the biggest festivals we have out here. They reenact a bunch of pirates coming into Destin and Fort Walton Beach to try to take over it. And basically what they do is they come into Fort Walton. We actually have a no-kidding pirate ship, like with cannons and everything. It's got big sails. It is, I'm pretty sure, ran by actual motor, but it just looks like a big pirate ship. There's a bunch of pirates, and they literally shoot cannons, fake cannons, at the beach, and we're all watching. And then they go chasing the mayor through town, and that's where the parade happens. And then the mayor chases them back out at the end of the parade. They get on their boats and run away. And then from that point on, it becomes, basically a network gathering event, a drinking fest. It becomes a drinking fest. Let's call it what it is. So kids will enjoy it up to a certain point. It might be best to pull your kids out as nightfall hits and everybody goes downtown and starts drinking, things like that. But I'm not going to tell you what to do with your children. That's just my suggestion. So let's get to the next one. And next up is, this is always a fun subject. School district challenges. Okay, this is a fun one that I've never talked about on this channel before. So if you've made it this far and you're a longtime viewer of this channel, school district challenges. This one seems fairly new to me, so I didn't realize this was a thing. First off, our schools here are great. They're rated fairly well. They're not rated amazing compared to some of the other cities around us, like Navarre and Niceville. In fact, if you're looking for outstanding schools, Navarre, Niceville, and anything out in the 30A Santa Rosa region are going to be kind of the prime ones as far as I can tell. I don't have any kids myself, so I don't have personal anecdotes. I just have the stories from the girls on my team who do have kids in these schools. So Fort Walton Beach is not like the premier one, but they're still really good all in all. But there has been a little bit of noise over the past 2 years or so. Nothing too crazy, but just like little things here and there where it's like we're having issues with some of the teachers or with some of the infrastructure in general with our schools. I think I saw, and don't quote me on this because I really don't pay attention to like bad news in general. It just doesn't fit with me. I'm a very positive person. So I'm pretty sure I saw very recently, last couple of months, that one of the teachers got in trouble for possibly drinking on the job. Now, this isn't prevalent. This isn't like to scare you off or anything. It's just to make you note that it's not perfect out here. And a lot of times I read through some of the comments and stuff whenever there is something going on with the school, whenever they're voting on something or changing something. And there's some fairly negative feedback on there that I don't see as much in Navarre and in Niceville, the 30A Santa Rosa area, or heck, even Destin, really. Of course, I don't watch those as much because I don't live in those cities particularly, but I try to keep up on everything because obviously I'm a real estate professional. I want to make sure that I've got that information for you. So holding nothing back, that is the kind of stuff that is very recent, and I think it's being nipped in the bud very, very quickly, but it's something that I think you should know about. And it's not all the schools. It's really From what I could tell, it was one of them. And I don't want to say which one it was because I don't fully remember. I'm like 98% sure I know which one. Go ahead and give us a call if you are curious about that kind of thing. You can call us early. It doesn't matter if you're like a year out. That's how a lot of people reach out to us about a year out, what have you. So if that's you and you're just like, oh, shoot, Fort Walton seemed great until you said that, call us. We'll get you some information on that so that you know where to steer clear from if that is important to you. All right, let's see what's up next. All right, no whammy, no whammy, no whammy. I've been saving this one. It's got 2 pieces of tape, so you know it's important. Ooh, military presence dominates culture. I know we just talked about the proximity to the military bases, but let's talk about the culture because of that. All right, the big one, the military presence dominates culture. We've talked about the military several times now, but this is accurate. The military presence dominates the culture here in Fort Walton Beach because we've got 2 major air bases, and Eglin Air Force Base is the largest Air Force base in the world, or at least in the U.S. I'm pretty sure in the world, but I don't fully know that 100%. But it's not by population, it's by landmass. But so many of those folks are living here in Fort Walton and Navarre and Niceville and Crestview. Those are the 4 most common for our military members, which means the culture is dominant here. That's not a bad thing to me, but to some people, they're not going to like it because their friends or their neighbors that they made friends with are going off, and they're going off, on long trips, or they're only staying here for 2 to 3 years. So it's a very transient community. Your neighbors will be in and out. There are a lot of U-Hauls driving around. There are a lot of people moving around, and we do have a PCS season. PCS stands for Permanent Change of Station. That's where they move to a different place. The military, for the most part, likes to move people every about 3 to 4 years now. When I was in, it was about every 2 to 3. They've slowed it down just a little bit. So sometimes you're going to make great friends with somebody, and they're going to move away, and that's just part of the culture here. So that could be a pro for you where you feel safe because there's a bunch of military folks around you, or it could be a con because, well, you're going to lose one of your friends at some point if you live here long enough. And losing, I mean like to moving, probably not losing in other ways, but life does happen. All right, let's get to the next one. Okay, let's do, you younger folks aren't going to like this one, limited nightlife. Okay, my younger folks, as I said, are going to dislike this one. There's limited nightlife out here, especially right now as we are talking. The big hub of where so many of us used to hang out, which was Casey's and Tapworks and Taste and I think it was Coasters, they're all shut down. Okay, so the owner is selling it where we're going to get something new in that area, but this was a cool little area that had, a bunch of sand in the middle of it, so you could put your toes in that amazing sand that we have without actually having to be on the water with that cool breeze or whatever. They've got a live band, and it's in the center of these multiple bars, right? Tapworks and Casey's in particular. Taste is more of a restaurant, or was more of a nice restaurant with some pretty good food. But that's like the biggest portion of our nightlife was right there. Now, there's still a bunch around it. We've got Woodfoot. We've got my favorite, the Boardroom. Amazing food, great drinks as well. You've got Fockers. You heard that right. Fokkers. I didn't say anything bad on here. You've also got the Salty Duck, which is a very heavy military-friendly bar. I believe it's still just beer there, but they've got a ton of taps. I'm talking like 40 or 50 or something like that. These are all located in the same generalized area, downtown. Now, of course, there are multiple other nightlife style things scattered around town. If you're looking for a club, we've got a couple of them right next to each other. I don't know what one of their names is because it's fairly new. But right next to it is the Block. That one's been around as long as I can remember, as long as I've been here at least. It's probably been around a lot longer than that. This is one of those places that's like 3 clubs in one. It's got a karaoke portion that's really, really small. Then it's got a country area where that's the biggest portion of it. Then they've got a hip hop area right next to it, which I know seems crazy, hip hop and country right there, but they do line dancing, they do all of that. And then, if you're looking for nightlife like that, is one of the places that you can definitely go to. Or of course, you can take a trip on over into Destin, and then you've got a lot of options out there. All right, I'm not going to spend too much more time talking about nightlife because I just don't know that much about it. I'm kind of outside of my nightlife era now. So let's try the next one and see what we get. Okay, we're back to the board. Let's see what the board gives us. Oh, this is a good one. Accessibility. How accessible is Fort Walton Beach? All right, your accessibility. This makes it really easy, especially if you travel a lot or you want to be in a city where you can be to your family very quickly. So you've got quick access to the airport. VPS, they call it the Destin Fort Walton Beach Airport, which is so confusing because it's technically in Niceville, or it's right between Niceville and Fort Walton Beach. We'll throw it up on the map here as I'm talking. But that is the airport that goes in and out of here. And we have Allegiant out here. So if you're looking for really inexpensive flights, we've got it. I don't remember if any of the other, less expensive brands are out here. I generally kind of stick to the main flight people that I take. I don't know, it's airlines. There we go. Geez. But the cool thing is it's really quick access. If you're on the north side of Fort Walton Beach anyway, it's less than 10 minutes. Even if you're further south and you've got to drive all the way through town, it's 20 minutes tops to get out there. So you can take a quick Uber so you don't have to leave your vehicle there and pay all those fees. And you can fly anywhere you want. The main hubs that they go into are Atlanta, Charlotte, and there's one more. I can't remember, but it's Atlanta and Charlotte for the most part. And then from there you go, wherever your heart desires at that point. Then of course, Allegiant flies one-way flights, but that's not the only accessibility thing that we want to talk about, because there's also other cities nearby. You've got Atlanta about 4 hours away. You've got Mobile a couple hours. You've got obviously Panama City and Pensacola, both approximately an hour. Panama City's just a little bit further. It's about an hour 15, hour 20, maybe up to an hour and a half, depending on where you're at in Fort Walton. And then Pensacola, about 45 minutes to an hour. You can keep going down that road. You got New Orleans. And then, of course, there's a bunch of other cities around here as well. One of my favorites to go to is Biloxi. I think it's about 3 hours away. It's been a while since I've been out there. That's like the nearest place you can kind of go to get to gambling and gambling with table games. I think there are some places that do slots a little bit quicker to get to, but that's if I'm going to go gamble, I'm going to go do the tables, which I barely do. I couldn't even tell you last time I've been out to Biloxi, but it is cool to have that as an option. All right, let's see what's next. Okay, we've just got 5 left. Pros and cons. What's the next one going to be? One of the ones that we get the most questions asked about us from is hurricane risk. What is the risk of hurricanes here at Fort Walton Beach? Okay, hurricane risk. Yes, there is a risk of hurricanes. In fact, if you've been watching the news, in 2024, Florida got hit like 2 or 3 times back to back to back. We missed every single one of them. And we do tend to miss a lot of them because of where we are at. We're up in the Panhandle. A hurricane's got to weasel its way into the Gulf of Mexico and then come straight up, versus going over the mainland, getting slowed down or whatever in the in the main portion of Florida. So I'm not saying that we're not going to get hit. We absolutely will. But the chance of mass devastation, it's been quite a while. The last one that came near us was in Panama City Beach. That was Hurricane Michael, I believe was the name of it, and it did some pretty good damage. The one before that was in 2004 or 2005. I had just missed it literally by a couple of months or maybe a year, something like that. And that was Hurricane Ivan, and then there was Hurricane Opal in 1980 something. So you're looking at about a 30-year spread before we get like really hit hard. These are huge hurricanes. Obviously, we get the smaller hurricanes. We get those fairly often, category 1s, tropical storms, things like that. I'm going to be honest, for most of us here living in Florida, living in the Panhandle, like a category 1, 2, or 3, most of us don't even care. Like we're not even we're expecting to go to work the next day. Like it's not that big of a deal. The way that our houses are built, the way that they build things out here, it can generally withstand that. Now, that's not saying that you shouldn't leave if you're in an evacuation zone for a 1, 2, or 3. If you're really close to the water, your evacuation zone might require you to leave on a Hurricane 1. Where I'm personally at, I don't leave until a Hurricane 3. I'm going to be honest, I don't even leave it a 3. I leave it a 5. I shouldn't even say that because it's probably not great advice, but it's just my house has been around since the 80s. It's built very well. I'm not overly worried about it. But if it starts crossing into the 4s, I'm getting out of here. So if you are worried about the hurricanes, just watch everything. Know what hurricane zone you're in. They're going to tell you when you need to leave, and just leave early. Don't wait until the last second. So many people do that, and then the roads get cluttered, and all the gas stations, have lines in them, and everybody's freaking out, and it just gives you that like super big worry in the pit of your stomach or in your chest. I don't want that feeling at all. So just leave early if you think it's a problem. Okay, let's see what's next. All right, we're getting down to the wire here. Okay, outdoor lifestyle. Oh, do we have outdoor lifestyle? I mean, it's Florida. There's no hills. Let's talk about it. Okay, outdoor lifestyle. Does Florida have it? Yes, we do. Obviously, we've got tons of water sports, jet skis, and going out on a pontoon boat. We've got Crab Island. Crab Island, like one of the best things that we have in our area. I absolutely love Crab Island. It's such a good time. It is it's a sandbar where we dredged all of this sand out of the East Pass, which is the area that you would get into the Gulf of Mexico from Destin, right over the bridge. If you're ever like going over the bridge into Destin or leaving the Destin Bridge into Fort Walton, if you look on either side, that's the pass that we're talking about. It would be on the south side. And on the north side of it is Crab Island. It's where we put all the sand. It used to be an island, and then eventually it got eroded away with hurricanes and waves and stuff. And so now it's like 3 to 4 feet almost everywhere you go. Little sandbar. You'll have like stingrays and dolphins swimming out there and crabs running around, stuff like that. It is a really good time. There's floating bars out there. You grab a pontoon boat, you anchor it up, you go make some friends. Everybody's trying to make friends out there. It's music blasting. Like, it is just a really good time. So if I'm going to do something, it's not going to be the clubbing nightlife that we were just talking about. It's going to be going out to Crab Island and have a good time. You take a jet ski out there. Then, of course, we've got all the other outdoor activities that you can do, not only on the water, like paddle boarding and stand-up paddle boarding, kayaking, but you also have like floating down the rivers. We've got lots of springs and stuff around here as well. We've got trails to go take your Jeeps out at, or those little 4x4s or side-by-sides, I think they're called. I can't think of what they're called, the little four-wheel RVs, stuff like that. RVs, I don't think that's what it's called, but hopefully you guys know what I'm talking about. It's escaping me right now. Of course, lots of camping. There's lots of trails to walk, but you're not going to get heavy hiking that you would. Our elevation here is pretty low. Our highest elevation is Crestview. So if you want to feel some sort of elevation, you can go up there and hike a little bit. For the most part, our hiking is going to be fairly flat, but very beautiful nonetheless. Lots of creeks, lots of ponds, lots of little water features here and there for you to kind of go and explore. All right, that's a lot for outdoor activities. Let's see what else we got. Okay, only a couple left. Make sure you're sticking around. We still got some good ones we haven't hit yet. Mild winters. This one is so near and dear to my heart right now because this is the reason, one of the biggest reasons, why I stay here still. All right, mild winters, as I was saying a second ago, that is part of the reason why I'm still living here in Fort Walton Beach. I like the mild winters. Right now, it is the coldest it's been in a very long time. It's like 50 some odd degrees. 2 days ago, it was 37 degrees. I literally took a snapshot of it and sent it to my folks because they were showing like winter or snow and stuff like that where they live. And my sister's up in Washington. She was showing me all the snow they had and all the fun they're having. And I'm like, we're dealing with it too. It's 37. And of course, my dad joked. He was like, is everybody okay over there? You guys all right? I'm like, I haven't seen anybody in days. We don't know what's going on. I don't know if anybody's alive out there. You know, all jokes, of course, because us Floridians, we don't handle the cold very well. I went up to Washington to visit my sister for Christmas, and let me tell you, it was freezing everywhere we went. I'm like bundled up. I've got this like hoodie on, another hoodie underneath it, a shirt, a long sleeve shirt, just trying to stay warm. So for me, not having heavy winters is very, very important to me. Even 30 is too dang cold for me, and occasionally it gets that cold here. I've seen it get in the 20s here before. It's the rarity, not the rule, but it does definitely happen. So if you're looking for a place to get away from the harsh winters, this is a great spot. Now you can go further south in Florida and get even better winters than we have here, but you're also going to get more heat down there. So to me, the Panhandle is a perfect little like middle ground, and of course Fort Walton Beach is in it, so that's part of Fort Walton Beach as well. All right, let's see what else we got. Ooh, okay, which one? 2 more left. Whoa. The reason why most people come to Fort Walton Beach or anywhere in our area, beautiful beaches. I know it's a little blurry, but beautiful beaches right there. Oh yeah, beautiful beaches, what we are known for. So we have that powder white sand, and it is powder. It goes so nice between your toes. I know if you're a longtime viewer of this channel, you've heard me say that a bazillion times, but I love this sand out here. It's actually crushed graphite from thousands or hundreds of thousands of years from the Appalachian Mountains, working its way all the way down, and then the tide bringing it up to our beaches. That's why it is so soft and so beautiful. But also, why it is illegal to take the sand off of the beach. Now, of course, if some of the sand's on your clothes, whatever, nobody's going to come after you for that. You can't go over there with a bulldozer and just take truckloads of the sand. That is 100% illegal in this area. Of course, we've got those beautiful turquoise waters or emerald waters. It's actually part of the reason why my real estate company is named the Emerald Group. I love the colors. When it is this like crystal green sort of thing, that's why like the background behind me is kind of that color too. Like I just love the color. It just, my eyes go right to it. It's very attractive. And then of course it also turns blue sometimes, which I really like. Oh, and the shirt, that was actually unintentional. The shirt's kind of that color too. But our beaches are absolutely stunning out here, but the beaches are also not something to be played with. If you go out here, please keep your eyes on the flags. We've got several different flags. Purple, means there's wildlife out there. That could be stingrays, that could be sharks, that could be jellyfish. Most commonly, it's jellyfish when you see that, but just note that you don't want to get stung. It's not a fun time. Some of the jellyfish are perfectly fine. You can pick them up, play with them. Actually, when we're out at Crab Island, we'll always be playing with them because the tourists freak out. They're like, oh my God, that's going to hurt. And then there's these other ones that are like this like shade of pink. Don't touch those. Not cool. Then you've got double red flag. That means don't get in the water, not even like knee deep, okay? It is very dangerous. Those riptides are no joke. You can't see them. You don't know it's there. You'll be out there not even like really swimming. And just like with the standard pull of everything, you'll just look back and all of a sudden you're half a mile out. Super dangerous. If you're ever caught in that situation, go east and west, swim east and west first, one of those directions to get out of the riptide, and then start making your way back. Stay calm, just start swimming. It's going to take you a while. Try to remain as calm as possible. But it's no joke. So please pay attention to the flags. We don't want folks going missing out here. That's never a good vacation, or even if you're a local, definitely not fun. So that's our beautiful beaches. They're beautiful, but they could be dangerous. Could. All right, let's go with the last one. And great for families. Hopefully y'all stuck around all the way to this, especially if you've got a family and you're worried about it. Let's talk about how great Fort Walton is for families. All right, great for families. Fort Walton Beach is definitely great for families. We talked about a lot of things that kind of that are offered out here, but there are lots of kid-friendly events in general. We've got Surge, which is like a trampoline park. We've got multiple movie theaters. We've got multiple putt-putt areas. We've got the Golfarium over on the island where you can go hang out with penguins and see the dolphins and heck, I'm pretty sure you can even pay to play with some of these animals. They have an albino crocodile out there. Maybe it's an alligator. I don't know if it's croc or alligator, what have you. But they have an albino one. Every time I see it, I think it's dead because it's never moving. I never see it move, but every time I see it, it's somewhere else in the pen or in the cage. So lots of cool things there. And then right across the street from that, there's the Adventure Zone. So point of this is my long drawn out way of saying there's lots of things to do for children, lots of things to do for families. So you can definitely take your kids out here and have a good time. And there's no shortage of things that you can do. And then of course you can drive to any of the cities around us and find even more things, which is super cool. Whew, all right, that was a whole bunch of pros and cons. I am hoping that if you made it this far, I'm hoping that you got some sort of value out of it. So if you did, please don't forget to hit that like button. It really helps us get the word out and talk to more folks and spread the amazingness of this area. And of course, some of the cons too. It's not just all pros. We want to be as honest as possible with you guys so that you guys can make an informed decision whether you want to move down here. And if so, which city to move into. So if you are not a longtime subscriber or viewer, hit that subscribe button. We do videos every single Tuesday at 4 p.m. Central Standard Time. We do it for Pensacola to Panama City and everything in between. Literally every single town we go in depth on. Half of our videos, we go out and we actually show neighborhoods. We show what pricing is going to look like. We show, different houses, things like that, so you can get a feel for it. And then the other half, we're trying to provide you guys values just like this so that you guys can make an informed decision. I really appreciate you guys watching, and I will see you guys next week.